Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. What a spectacular day this has been. We have been seeing this splashed around social media across all homes in this country, because if there were to be a single religion that will unite the whole of this country, that religion is cricket. And what has happened in Australia is truly phenomenal. We here at NDTV are calling this young team the Wizards of Oz, the Wizards of Australia. A new team is born today, ladies and gentlemen, and that too against all odds. We are going to discuss the future of these young boys and also what one needs to make of how Indian team performs under pressure. Have we completely changed that or raised more expectations among the people from the Indian team? We'll also be speaking to Shashi Tharoor. He's a very famous Indian politician. This is India's historic win, and here's the word for it from the Tharoorosaurus. He's going to use a word to describe this win. He's going to join us in about 10-15 minutes from now, and we'll know what that word is, so please do stay on and watch. Our next story, there's a major political fight over an NDTV news break. Chinese installations inside Indian territory. There is a political war over whodunit. Congress is calling it the failure of Modi in checking China. BJP struck back by saying that Nehru gifted Arunachal land to the Chinese. But the point is that the discourse around China gives us a sense of déjà vu. There is some sort of a templated conflict between the Congress and the BJP over who surrendered more to the Chinese. That political debate is going to come up in just a short moment. And our final debate today is going to be on WhatsApp's digital dadagiri. The government has now finally stepped in after NDTV initiated a campaign on what was being seen as a my way or the highway clause. It seems that the government wants action. They want WhatsApp accountable to take back that clause. But more importantly, is the ultimate solution only and only a strong data protection bill? Is that India's only hope? So a massive lineup right here on Left, Right and Centre over the next 60 minutes. Let's kickstart our discussion number one around Team India and its performance. I would like to introduce our guests this evening. Mihir Bose, author of The Nine Waves, The Extraordinary Story of Indian Cricket. Charu Sharma, cricket commentator. We also have Andrew Collister, Australian Vice Consul from Chennai. And in just a short moment, we'll have former Indian cricketer Nayan Mongia, who's also going to join us. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Charu, we'll begin with you. I mean, spectacular is the word that I would choose. We've got a word from Shashi Tharoor also, which we'll know in just a short moment. What is the word that comes to your mind for this win?
Well, this is a bit of a challenge, isn't it? But let me call it a top of the world performance, an Everestin performance. Because, I mean, to beat Australia in Australia, this emphatically, especially after that 36 all-out, is just, you used the word phenomenal. People have used outstanding, special, sweet, fabulous. I mean, you'll have to run out of adjectives, because this is an extremely tough tour to Australia, because not only the win at the Gabba, but any ground, anywhere, anytime. Australia, are not particularly, how should I put this, are not very hung up on white ball cricket, unless it's the odd World Cup or so. They are very test match oriented, as most cricketers still are. Of course, the average fan may not be too worried about test match cricket, but the cricketers certainly are, and none more than Australia. So to win a test series in Australia by beating them at the Gabatoir, we'll have to say extremely memorable. And the Indian team, the Indian cricket fans will remember this for a very, very long time, coming as it did on the back of their previous historic win. Yeah. Now, that was historic. This one, I say, monumental.
Okay. Mihir Bose, this is nothing short of, it almost appears as if one is watching a movie. It's like a movie. Look at these people, youngsters, the sort of background they come from. They would have never made it into the team had it not been for the absence of so many Indian players. I mean, you had Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, Jadeja, R. Ashwin, even Virat Kohli, all of them away, which created an opportunity for these players to come. And boy, they performed.
Well, the word I would use is the good Indian word, jadugari. This is magical. This is what Mughal Azam and movies like that used to make us believe. I'm that old. You're very young. You probably wouldn't remember all that. I was a reporter. I'd just become a reporter in 1974. I was at Lord's when India were bowled out for 42. I'll never forget that morning. A cold grey morning, a bit like the day today in London, where I'm speaking to you from. And what was interesting, that was a very fine Indian team. Gavaskar, Vishwanath, Engineer, Wadekar, the great spinners, and yet the next test, what happens? India were absolutely thrashed. And this is where the starting point of this match is. Not what happened. Of course, Brisbane was incredible. But after coming back from 36, and I observed what had happened when they got out for 36, and I said, India will, as usual, fold up and go away. But they didn't. And what was very interesting today, you talk of the young players, but let me point out somebody else, Ajinkya Rayanka. I was watching him, and he was very, very calm. He was sitting next to Rohit Sharma, and Rohit was being, a bit ebullient. But Ajinkya showed no emotion whatsoever. And I think his leadership, which was very good, very targeted, brought these people together. And of course, IPL has helped. These people have come up. And this is really the new India. The India now, I go back a long time. I watched my first test match at the age of 5 from the old Brabourne Stadium. In those days, a draw was a victory. I remember Pathodi winning his first test overseas in New Zealand. Today, what is shown is the Indians could easily have gone for a draw. Australian commentators were saying, well, that's the best hope for the Indians. But they didn't. Even after they had lost wickets, they didn't. And, Washington Sundar got out to an extravagant shot. But the point is, he played that shot. He was confident enough. And this is something, and this is actually much more than cricket. This is actually a new India. I mean, you and I certainly have. I used to cry when I read Indian history, The general or the king would be beaten and the army would fold and go away. But this army, no, they're not fighting a war. They're only playing cricket. This army will not fold, and that is what encourages me enormously.
It's very interesting that you use the expression "New India." There is a political context to it in India, but a lot of people, Mr. Bose, are saying that this is what New India is. This is how India was, and this is just a representation of what this country can do. Right? Let me now quickly go across to Mr. Collister also. Andrew, a lot of Australian commentators, I don't know what your assessment was, many Indian commentators also had written off the Indian team. And you see, a fair amount of these comments are now coming back to bite these Australian commentators. They're being circulated on social media. Do you think that people spoke too soon?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me on. I think, you can definitely say they spoke too soon. And they said, if you're going to talk your talk, you have to walk your walk. And obviously, after Adelaide, there were some pretty confident commentators out there. And, I think it's come back to bite them that, I don't know if they would have said they underestimated the Indians on the field, but definitely in the commentary box, I think they underestimated what a young team can do. And I think it's wonderful to see that, it wasn't the shining light. It wasn't Virat Kohli necessarily leading from the front. It was these young players who really inspired this historic victory today.
Okay, Charu, let me quickly come back to you. A word on each of these gentlemen. I mean, they are all man of the matches, if there were such a thing. Rishabh Pant, Shubman Gill, Mohammad Siraj. I mean, look at their stories. It's not just the performance on field, but the background, what they were going through, and then not just on the field, but off the field, in their personal lives also. We all know what tragedy struck Mohammad Siraj. Then you've got the story of Shardul Thakur, Washington Sundar. Each of them played their role and played it really well.
Well, you've taken the words from my mouth, Sanket, because beyond the victory, which of course will pass very soon, the much bigger stories are the backgrounds that these players have come from. Of course, it's been happening in India for quite a while now, and there are lots of such stories. But half the team coming from, should we say, very challenging circumstances, is a fantastic tribute to where Indian cricket has gone from the days of extreme privilege to now becoming so democratic, where anyone from just about any place in the country. Recently, of course, there's been some wonderful performances in the Northeast, which are also very new players to Indian cricket at the higher level. So yes, you are right. I think those stories are much more important.
But does that bring more hunger in the players? Does that, the fact that they're not as privileged as, people from Mumbai or from Delhi or Kolkata?
Well, we don't want to put anyone down, but I mean,
certainly
the truth is, of course, these are very aspirational stories, and people who play sport, not just cricket, do realize and think and get self-belief and confidence from, if they can do it, we can, looking at their circumstances. But of course, the hard work involved is not what is visible, because these guys work extraordinarily hard. It's not just their circumstances. Many other people follow similar or have similar circumstances, but it's the result of very hard, dedicated work, and that's what these guys have utilized to take them to the top. So those stories, Sanket, are far more special because they last a lifetime.
Okay, Andrew, would you call this a turning point performance for India? And also, if you were to advise, what exactly should be the lessons to be learnt by an Australian team?
I think it's definitely historic. It's a turnaround in perception. 2 years ago, I think Australian cricket was very consumed by its own internal turmoil. This is pretty much a full-strength team, and the Australian crowds love an underdog, and I think there's going to be great respect for the players who were unknown at the start of the series. People like Washington Sundar, Shardul Thakur, and the others. But I think what it says for Australian cricket is that India have really come to this by aping what Australia did about 30 years ago. Australia in the 90s, they invested in their A team. They had national cricket academies. They really had a great Sheffield Shield competition, and you didn't get in without really earning your spot. And I think in recent years, you've seen in India the IPL has given players pressure situations. The Ranji Trophy players don't get in without averaging a lot of runs. And the India A tours have been really successful in giving players overseas opportunities. And that's something I think Australian cricket is probably needing to work out a bit more. They've got troubles with their schedules back home over the Sheffield Shield and the Big Bash. How does that work during a summer? Because no one's been playing Sheffield Shield cricket recently through the Test series. So I think these are questions that they're going to have to really work out going forward, how to best prepare players for the Test arena.
All right. So this is not just necessarily a victory for India. This is a victory for the game, the manner in which it has been played and the manner in which a comeback has happened. Nobody expected, and that's what makes the game interesting. So it's a victory for everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Bose, Mr. Collister, as well as Mr. Sharma. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move on now and introduce our next guest, senior Congress politician and a very, very keen cricket observer, one who watches cricket religiously, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Dr. Tharoor, your views on what I call a remarkable and spectacular win.
Well, I think you've said it, remarkable, spectacular. Look, frankly, this morning I never really thought we could pull it off. I mean, I assumed that the only two likely results were either a defeat or a draw. It just seemed to me so impossible. And in fact, with all the ominous forecasts for rain, I was actually expecting the spoiler to be the weather, and that would be the end of that. Instead, we got one of the most enthralling last days of Test cricket ever. And right to the last few minutes, anything was possible. If Rishabh had somehow got out, we had three tailenders who couldn't bat to save their lives. I mean, we could have ended up in a tie, in a defeat, in anything. That kind of excitement Test cricket only can provide. And I have to say that it was just the most amazing, amazing result. And I think a vindication of the kind of bench strength that India has developed in recent years. When you think of the number of injuries this team went through, and they couldn't even fly in the sort of healed replacement like Ishant Sharma because of the quarantine requirements thanks to COVID. So they had to pick from within the squad they took there. And then to find winners and mold them as Ajinkya Rahane did into a winning team. All of this, I think, just speaks so wonderfully of where Indian cricket is today.
Let me ask you another question. My question number 2. If I were to borrow from the political lexicon, would you say that this was truly a case where the team found Apda mein Avsar? You know, your views on this young, phenomenal, well-achieving team?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, not just the youngsters, people like Natarajan, 29 years old, is not young in cricket. And he would never have thought that he would be even playing for India in any format, let alone in all three at the end of a tour, for which he was initially picked as a replacement bowler. You may remember that he wasn't in the original squad. It was Varun Chakravarti, the mysterious leg spinner, who had got the call. Then he dropped out. And suddenly Natarajan, who had bowled well in IPL, was brought in. But everyone thought at best he'd be practicing in the nets. If he's very lucky, he'll get a T20 match. Moving human interest stories like Natarajan's and Mohammad Siraj's. I mean, look at both Natarajan coming from really dirt poor poverty in a village hundreds of kilometers away from the state capital, essentially making his name by plying the Tamil Nadu leagues, making a late debut for Tamil Nadu, being discovered by the IPL, playing in the IPL, and then finally this. Siraj, his father's a rickshaw driver, not a very well man. The family again living in desperate poverty. It is Siraj's cricket and his earnings that enabled him to actually have a decent home for his father to stop pulling a rickshaw. Then his father dies at the beginning of the tour. What heartbreak. And the son decides he will not even go back for his beloved father's funeral because his father's dream was Desh ko shaan kar do, come and play somehow for the country and bring glory to it. So he stayed on missing his father's funeral, even though he was not a certainty for the side and even though he wasn't picked for the first test. And look, second, third and fourth, he becomes the highest wicket taker for India. And he is the one whose tears have moved the nation twice.
They have.
Once when the national anthem was played and once when he got his 5-4 in a test match. I mean, these are stories of human interest that also speak about a real new India, not the new India the politicians talk about, but the new India that cricket has brought into our lives. A new India of aspiration, of hope, where people from humble backgrounds and unknown places in small towns and villages are transforming this nation. It started perhaps with Dhoni and that lot, and from then onwards it's reached the fairy tale stories of Mohammad Siraj and Team.
Oh, definitely.
I think there's so much in this news today to relish in and to glory in for Indians. There's a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to celebrate. And this is nothing short of a fairy tale story. But tell you what, Dr. Tharoor, it is not a fairy tale for the Australians. I remember reading your tweets of all the commentary that was done by the Australians. They'd almost written this team off. Many in India had also written this team off. A word, perhaps, for the Australians who maybe spoke too soon.
I did. I'm just saying that, it's not right to have what the Germans call Schadenfreude or the few English wonks call epicaricacy, which is the malicious pleasure of enjoying other people's misfortune. We don't like to do that. It doesn't seem decent, right? When other people are suffering, you have to commiserate. But all these confident, smug predictions by Australian commentators, former test players, so-called experts, and a couple of Englishmen too in that list, like Michael Vaughan, all saying that 4-0 is going to be the result after India were humiliated in that 38 all-out drubbing in the fourth innings of the Adelaide Test. We lost within 3 days.
36.
Frankly, we're pretty bad travelers. We always seem to do badly in the first test of an away series. It happened in South Africa, happened in England, it happened again this time in Australia. But the way that we picked up and fought back shows so much about the spirit of the side. And credit, first of all, to Ajinkya Rahane. He is quiet, he's understated, but he shows a certain kind of leadership, Saket, that honestly, to my mind, our country needs more of. Not just in the sports field. Quiet, understated, a man who doesn't need to assert his authority, thump his chest, scream at the players. You never see him raising his voice, calm and unflappable. And what is more, giving credit to his team. It was so moving to see when he was given the Victor's Trophy at the end of the series, he promptly handed it over to the most junior member, Natarajan, to hold. That is true leadership. When you make your team stakeholders in your success and you make them co-owners of your greatest triumphs. So, first of all, my tribute to Ajinkya Rahane. Second, behind the scenes, people like Ravi Shastri, the coach, the overall sort of grand panjandrum of the team. He must have been calling the shots. We never see this out in the public, but he's called the right shots. Bhar Tarun, who as a test cricketer briefly was called Bharti Arun because Bharti, as in Subramanya Bharti, I mean, it's a male name, but since the Indian media kept getting confused about his gender, he dropped the I and became Bharat Arun. Look at Bharat Arun. I mean, he's been such an inspirational figure. And he's the one who discovered players like Siraj and Nataraj and brought them up to where they are. So we're looking at an extraordinary team effort. And I think that is something, again, that we in India in every walk of life need to learn from. We are a team. We are one. We have to pull together. There should be no weak links. It is difficult to find a weak link in this 11, right? I tweeted because I ran out of space the names of 7 players.
Yeah.
But even the other 4 deserve a mention. Mayank Agarwal's 38 in the first innings deserves a mention. Rohit's 45 deserves a mention, but there simply wasn't enough room in the Twitter characters. All I can say is every one of the 11 more than pulled their weight, and as a result, it is truly a victory for Team India. Pant was magnificent.
Yeah.
He was a fairy tale story, all of that. But in a sense, the men of the match were all 11 of the Indian team.
Absolutely. Dr. Tharoor, but before we let you go, can you put the Tharoorosaurus to good use and give us a nice English word for this win?
Well, I used it, epicaricacy, which is this really enjoying the misfortunes of the poor Australians, and all those pundits who said we were going to lose is from Tharoorosaurus as well. I think for the rest, I'll give you a word that's not in Tharoorosaurus, which is quite simply wow. What can you say when the impossible or the improbable actually happens? And that's what happened today. None of us woke up in the morning expecting it. When Rohit was out, that really, I was convinced that was over. Now it's only draw and defeat. And look where we ended up. I don't think any Indian cricket fan is going to stop savoring this moment for a very long time to come.
Absolutely, Dr. Tharoor, we will. But, as someone who considers myself slightly unlettered in front of your Tharoorosaurus, and I'm assuming a lot of you must also be wondering what epicaricacy means. So let's thank you very much, Dr. Tharoor. Let's quickly put on the screen the meaning of this word. This is from Tharoorosaurus, which means that there are people who derive pleasure from the misfortune of another person or another situation. So it's like it's a Tharoor version of being sadistic. So that is the word from Tharoorosaurus for this moment. But in the larger context, Shashi Tharoor says the word he wants to use for India's win is wow. And that truly is the best way to define what has happened today. This is a great moment, not just for Indians to celebrate, but for anyone who loves the game of cricket to celebrate. Thank you very much, Dr. Tharoor, for joining us. Moving on now to our next story. This is an NDTV news break, which has now become a major political fight. Chinese installations in Indian territory, which was broken right here on NDTV yesterday. But a political war has broken out. Congress calling it the failure of the Modi government, BJP saying that Nehru gifted this land. The China political discourse almost always gives you a sense of deja vu. There are concerns over installations in Arunachal, but the Delhi discourse is always over who surrendered more to the Chinese. Who is this discourse going to help? Let's just think about it. Let's quickly listen in to that face-off or that punch-counter-punch that happened on the NDTV news break.
चाइना हिंदुस्तान की कमजोरी को देख रहा है और समझ रहा है और चाइना के पास एक साफ क्लियर स्ट्रेटेजिक विजन है हिंदुस्तान के पास कोई स्ट्रेटेजिक विजन नहीं है चाइना ने हिंदुस्तान को 2 बार टेस्ट किया है एक बार डोकलाम में टेस्ट किया है और अब लद्दाख में अपने ट्रूप्स डालकर टेस्ट किया वो टेस्ट कर रहा है कि अगर चाइना को क्लियर मैसेज हिंदुस्तान ने नहीं दिया अगर हिंदुस्तान ने क्लियर अपने दिमाग में स्ट्रेटजी नहीं बनाई चाइना चुप नहीं बैठेगा चाइना इसका फायदा उठाएगा
अरुणाचल की भूमि जो गई चीन के कब्जे में किसने दी अक्साई चीन के कब्जे में कैसे गया 2008 में चुमूर में पांगनाक और चापजी घाटी डेमजोक और डुग्गी यहां अपनी सैकड़ों किलोमीटर जमीन चीन के हवाले किसने की चीन से अपने प्राइवेट निजी ट्रस्ट को पैसा किसने लिया?
All right, let me now quickly put this to a discussion. Ajay Shukla, defense analyst, is now with us. Rajat Sethi, he's an economist and a political analyst. Views lean to the BJP. Thank you very much, Rajat. We've spoken after a very long time, so welcome. We also have Major General Ashwini Sivach. He was, in fact, the commander. He commanded the company and the battalion in Arunachal Pradesh, in Tawang and Tooting. So he will have some real experience to share with us. Ajay Shukla is now on the screen, as you can see. Welcome, Ajay. In just a short moment, we'll have Dr. Ajoy Kumar, spokesperson of the Congress party, also with us. All right, Ajay Shukla, let's begin with you first. How big a matter of concern should this installation be?
I don't think it's a matter of very grave concern. The Chinese, according to your report, have made this installation 5 kilometers inside their territory. They are at perfect liberty to put up installations inside their territory, just as we are inside our territory. So I am actually a bit foxed about why so much of hoo-ha is being made about this. If they try crossing the line of actual control, or they try setting up an establishment inside our territory, then it would be cause for concern, but not until then.
Okay. Okay. Major General Sivach, would you like to respond? See, the whole point now is, while there is a political war of words, there is also this concern over whether we should be treating this as a matter of urgency and importance or not. You heard the view of Mr. Shukla. A lot of people feel, well, this is not our territory. The other view is, you can't just let go of your land. India technically considers this its territory. So if there is an installation which has come up as recently as, between August 2019 and January 2021, then this is a cause of concern.
Yes, Sanket, see, whatever point Ajay has spoken, I tend to agree with him. Fact is that as far as Arunachal is concerned, between India and China, the boundary is well known. It is a backbone line. And this is 5 kilometers inside their own territory. They had developed that area. The cause of concern is different. The cause of concern is that as far as the Chinese are concerned, they have developed infrastructure. They had developed the houses as well as the township very close to the line of actual control. And this is what is cause of concern is that they are carrying out the patrolling. They are the one which can then claim an area our side of line of actual control or border. Till the time they do not cross it, it is not matter of concern. What is more important to us is, have we developed our infrastructure? Have we able to build up the road up till the line of control the border area Arunachal? That is what it had. See, my point is that I have been seeing this area for last 40 years. We were almost 200 to 300 kilometers behind the line of control some time back. And we used to go for patrolling to 10 to 12 days, 14 days. But things have changed. We are back on the line of control after Operation Falcon and checkmate in it's 87 to 89. And thereafter, as on today, density of our troops have increased in Arunachal all along the line of control. Where roads and tracks are fast catching up. I am saying that yes, we are not as much as Chinese have improved their infrastructure, but we are able to catch them, and in the next 5 years, we will be equally balanced. So the point today is, a cause of concern is what they are doing it. We must also try to develop our border areas and try to now move the villages close to the border area. They can only move if we improve our infrastructure. That is the main cause.
Okay. Rajat Sethi, first of all, whether this point that is being raised by Major General Sivach, that we also have to develop our infrastructure, right? And he feels that there's good reason to believe that we are doing the same. The other point is a political response. Almost always, and at each time, you see a very, very templated fight between the Congress and the BJP. It seems as if the real enemy are these two, right? Absolutely templated. After Galwan also the same discourse. Even now I see the very same comments. And bang comes the reference to Nehru.
Yeah, so Sanketji, you need to follow the trend not just from Galwan but even from the Balakot strike. What I fail to understand is that there are so many issues around which Congress should, formulate strategy, come out and come in with a more reasoned approach to strategic and national security concerns. But every time they make a mockery of our national security, and this is where I believe both the political parties should refrain and should carry these discussions behind closed doors. There is no point in Congress coming out and doing a press conference and trying to rake up issues which are essentially 100% legacy issues which could have been resolved earlier. Right now, if you look at the belligerence of the Chinese side, it fits into Xi Jinping's plan, which he outlined into the 2 centenary celebrations that he has earmarked as his vision. 2021 is actually 100-year centenary celebrations for the Communist Party. It was created in 1921. So they would be belligerent throughout this year. They would try to posture and embarrass India. But what is even more embarrassing is when our own representatives from the Congress party comes in, makes a statement directly challenging India's national security. And then also for the BJP, they shouldn't come out and respond to such irresponsible statements.
No, but they have.
From
they have.
I mean, this is where I differ.
Look at the party president.
Refrain.
Yeah, you've got the party president, no less, who has raked, brought back the reference to Jawaharlal Nehru.
He brought in. So what JP Nadda ji had mentioned in the tweet is a series of events, and this shouldn't be pointed out to the NDTV story, which was about this Arunachal village. And there are not just this one village, but there are several villages across the McMahon line or the LAC line in that area, which we call the Xiaokang villages, which are basically these model villages created by China. And one such story of one such village was picked up by NDTV, and a level of sensationalism was created by Rahul Gandhi. And I think that is what needs to be targeted at and addressed, that he should not sensationalize that. Till that point, I think the BJP is well within its right to tell the Congress that these are legacy issues and these should not be discussed publicly, and India's security issues should be given much more seriousness.
Sure. Let's go a step further, Ajay Shukla. Now, both you as well as Major General Sivach raised the point on our building infrastructure on our side, at least, to be fighting fit. Now, number one, should we see the building of this village as some sort of, an aggression or at least preparedness, a level of preparedness from the Chinese where they want to, push their point across? And how should our ideal response be? Should our ideal response be?
Sanket, this village is actually a continuation of something that took place a couple of years ago, but was not picked up in a big way by either the Congress party or the Indian media. And that was Xi Jinping traveling to one of these border villages and congratulating two Tibetan young children for defending the border. Now, what Xi Jinping is doing and what the Communist Party leadership is doing is they are trying to make out that the defense of the border lies in the hands of the local people that actually live over there, the villagers along the McMahon line. And that is indeed a very, very clever ploy because ownership rights are asserted by local activities, by graziers taking their yak herds up to a certain point, by traders coming and trading at a certain point. And Xi Jinping and the Communist Party a couple of years ago began this whole business of putting national security into the hands of the local people. This is something we should be doing as well. We should be empowering our locals. We should be building infrastructure for them. We should be giving ownership of their border areas into their hands. But India is not doing it to the extent that China is. Neither this business of empowering locals nor the building of infrastructure. So to that extent, China is feeling a march over it, and it is a very concerted plan that has been in place for several years now.
Now, Major General Sivach, you have spoken in great detail, but I would want to ask you an ideal response to a situation like this. Yes, infrastructure, at least in these frontier areas or the frontline areas, must be must be adequate. But you cannot, or we can see, as Ajay Shukla is also raising the concern, we are not being able to match the pace. So what exactly, I mean, obviously, you would then argue, and many in the ruling dispensation will say it's much better than what it was. Yeah. But should that be considered enough?
Absolutely correct. Sanket, first of all, there I durustai. We have been quite slow in building up the infrastructure on line of control and border area all along from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. We can say we are almost 20 to 30 years behind. We started late. But now we are fast catching. We are improving our infrastructure. Our, surveillance devices have improved. Our satellite system has improved. We can carry out a proper recce and surveillance. Our density of population has increased. And also our strength of the troops on the border area has increased tremendously. What we are doing is that we are developing the roads and tracks up till the border area, and we are also trying to settle certain villages slightly closer to the border area. And this will only happen if we develop that area. If we can't develop, then who will go there? Chinese, what they are doing is they are not using the Buddhist population. They have brought the Han population and also Tibetan, which are from the Chinese Communist Party, and they are utilizing that as a sort of a town or a village for also a military sort of cantonment. And it is where their grazers and herders will be carrying out the patrolling, and those who are staying there, they are guarding the border. We are following the almost same principle, but where we are lacking is that we have to fast catch up. We are almost 5 years behind them. But we are now trying our best. This BECA which we have signed with Chinese, with Americans, that basic exchange and cooperation agreement, that gives us a lot of, as we are able to pick up many developments in Chinese side this time. Our satellite system has improved. Our surveillance and recce system has improved. Our weapon system in the border area has increased. Our, the fighting capability has increased. Sure. We have now have a capability of launching an offensive. Sort of a 17 corps has come up. Another corps may be also put that side. So overall, we are aware to that. What happened in Ladakh today. We are quite alert and alive that what should be the response to the Chinese. Sure. And to that extent, I am sure the Indian defense forces are very well prepared and they are fast catching up. Sure. I don't think what was there
Rajat,
5 years behind.
Quick comments before I take a short break. Rajat Sethi, first of all, I want Rajat, your comment on what Rahul Gandhi has said. He said that India doesn't have a strategic vision as far as dealing with China is concerned, and China is watching us very, very closely.
Well, I mean, he is not even the party president. So first he needs to sort out on what ground he is coming out and making a press statement. So I would not want to glorify him by responding to what he said. It carries very little strategic significance among all serious thinkers of India. That's true. We also need to understand that right now, at least Prime Minister Modi, he's at least creating a vision, 25-year vision, 50-year vision. There is a thought process behind it. Just like in 1949, when the People's Republic of China was founded, they created a 100-year vision, and they've been practicing pretty rigorously to catch up onto the targets which were set. And I think it is the politicians of our country who need to create these long-term visions.
Dr. Ajoy Kumar, spokesperson of the Congress Party, is also now with us. Dr. Kumar, a lot has been said over here as the Congress Party trying to rake up an issue and incite sentiments, so much so that when you say India does not have a strategic vision, when you're saying that China is watching us very closely and we're not doing enough, it almost appears as if this is your vote of no confidence in the manner in which things are being done.
No, I mean, I think it's the history of this government, and I heard a colleague of mine speaking on saying that there is a strategic vision and we're going to look at 25 years ahead. Now, vision is what we've been saying is something, so ridiculous, is so maligned, and we would rather have less vision and more action. If you look at it from the perspective of what's happening, there is a continuous propaganda being built of falsehood. Now, if you are able to factually put the facts on the ground, the whole nation will rally around, and we will take those decisions, strategic decisions, which may be uncomfortable in the short run, which the oppositions will also support the government on, as long as it's in India's interest. But if you look at what is happening across, I mean, even the WhatsApp messages going to TV anchors telling about what's going to happen from a strategic vision perspective is a joke. So the strategic vision gets released to an anchor, and that is a strategic vision. Then God save us from this government. Okay. The issue is your satellite images have come in and shown that they've made intrusions. I was also watching your show where one of the member of parliament from BJP happily made some funny statements. But the important part is that those images, you themselves are saying that they were non-existent in September 2020. Those buildings were not there in September 2020. They have come up in November 2020. Structures have come up, water has come up, electricity has come up, highways come up 60 kilometers. But our political, the Bharatiya Janata Party and their ability to only manage without looking at India's future for short-term political gain. Sure. Because they are always politicking. They are not understanding that please don't play with the future of the country. And it's a joke that when they continuously say that
my only concern is, yes, Dr. Kumar, I've run out of time, and we got you late. We got you a little late on this broadcast. But see, the point is, to each and every time when something like this happens, when there is a discourse around China, there is a very, very templated political response, which I don't think is helping anyone. Certainly not the country. Certainly not the country. Yeah.
I'll just finish off with 5 seconds.
Sure.
The problem is the country will rally when you take everybody into confidence. Every other prime minister and government used to do it. If you continuously cover up the issues under a carpet, it's going to explode. Okay. And who's going to pay the price? The country is going to pay a price.
Okay.
So let's be upfront, and we will take strategic decisions in the best interest of the country and set politics aside.
Okay. Ajay Shukla, Rajat Sethi, Major General Siwach, as well as Dr. Ajay Kumar, thank you very much for joining us. Stopping for a short break at this moment, but when we come back, the all-important WhatsApp debate. What should happen? The government has taken cognizance finally, but then is our answer or the ultimate solution only and only a strong data protection bill or a data protection law? It is implemented in the European Union. You can see what WhatsApp has done. It's a different rule for EU, but they've chosen to flex their muscles right here in India because we don't have a law like this. So is a strong data protection bill India's only hope? That debate after a short break. Welcome back. Let's now quickly tell you all the latest about WhatsApp. Finally, the government has responded. They've read the Riot Act to WhatsApp, saying that you must explain this is discriminatory in nature. In fact, they say withdraw these changes to the privacy policy. It will create a honeypot of information about users with Facebook groups. It can create security risks and vulnerabilities. The government has also objected to an all or nothing approach. Not just this, the government is also saying that at a time when we are considering a personal data protection bill, what is the point of this all or nothing approach, and why differential privacy policies for European Union and India? Now, this is very, very interesting, but what exactly is the future, and can the big tech be reined in by the Indian government once and for all? Let's quickly throw this open for a discussion. Jitin Jain is a cybersecurity expert, is with us, and Kazim Rizvi, the founder director of the Dialogue, is also going to be with us in just a short moment. Jitin, let's begin with you first. Kazim is also with us. Good evening to the both of you. Jitin, let's begin with you first. The government has spoken, but see, the point is the government has spoken in a similar way in the past also against big tech, and precious little has changed or happened.
No, Sanket, look, it's not a statement, it's not a passing remark, it is a definitive stand which has been clearly communicated in a documented form in a 4-page letter to WhatsApp. And it goes in absolute details, not only about the privacy policy, about the data they are collecting, about how they can, misuse it by creating a sort of data honeypot. Government further goes down and lists a set of questions to do away with any confusion of, spread by different people that this is required for this we are only collecting this. So they have asked them clearly, list down every single data you are collecting and what you are going to do with them, whom are you going to share with, so that there is absolutely no scope of any confusion. दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो जाएगा, तो प्रोपोगेंडा भी खत्म हो जाएगा डिसइंफॉर्मेशन का भी जो झूठा तमाशा किया जा रहा है वो भी खत्म हो जाएगा और सिविल राइट्स विल also be protected. Now another important thing, I think on your show other day I told there is a a set of people who have argued that government has questioned WhatsApp why there is a different set of policy for European users and why there is a different policy for Indian users. Are we second-rate economies? So argument given by certain people who have been running as proxy WhatsApp spokesmen, they have been saying that India does not have a data privacy law, we do not have a data privacy bill, there is very little government can do. But government has now made it very clear, as I pointed out other day, that every government in the world has a sovereign power to execute any function they deem fit to discharge any sovereign duty of that nation. That includes protecting the rights of 40 crore people, their data privacy. Here, Ministry of Information Technology is telling WhatsApp, reading a riot act, look, we are here to discharge a sovereign function. Our parliament, which is sovereign, is also seized of this matter. There is no hurry. So, in my opinion, if WhatsApp does not listen to discharge that sovereign function, Government of India will use sovereign power to take whatever action which is necessary. They have done the same in case of Chinese apps. They might do it again with WhatsApp.
Sure.
The size and scale, quantum of action may be different, however.
Okay, sure. Now, Kazim Rizvi, I have seen that, in previous broadcasts also, you seem to give us the finer detail. Now, many people would say that there are different details for different, here you have the government, which does not seem to be agreeing with your earlier position. You said that you go into the fine print and this is only metadata, that is data about the data, right? That is going to be shared. The government says, why? Why do this at all?
No, thank you, Sanket, and I agree with Mr. Jain that all the disinformation will be cleared out because the amount of disinformation I'm seeing is crazy with respect to that fact that all chats will go and people's privacy is being taken away. So I think it's very good. I welcome this step by the government. I welcome the fact that they are asking WhatsApp. Let WhatsApp come to them. Let the government talk to WhatsApp. Let them have a discussion on what is happening. Let them clarify to the government and let the government take a step forward in action. I think rather than, some people trying to be parallel government, let the real government take action and let them take action as per what they think is best. Number one. Number two, I think we need a data protection law, which is what I've been saying it before also. I don't know if that message is going across or not, but I've been saying that we need a data protection law. So I hope my language is clear.
Sure.
And those who want to misinterpret me are free to misinterpret me. That's not my problem. And if we have a data protection law, things should be under a process and let the data regulator take a call on how this should be done. Right now, government does not have enough power within the current regulation system. That's the reality. We can't cry and say, oh, this is not happening, throw them away. See, we are not China. It's very ironical, Sanket, that people want to protect privacy, but want India to become China. I mean, irony died a million deaths. So let's be very clear that, let's not, I would caution Mr. Jain to not use ad hominems over here. Let's have a constructive debate as mature people. This is not a binary. I agree that we need WhatsApp to respond. I agree with Mr. Prasad. I am in favor of WhatsApp.
No, Kazim, see, the point is WhatsApp did respond. I'll come to Mr. Jain. I'm going to come back to you. Just one moment. Mr. Rizvi, the WhatsApp, the company did respond. They gave their explanation that they had to, right? But then you have the government, which does not seem to be convinced with that explanation. Today you have the Competition Commission of India, which is not convinced. They feel, and the exact words being used by the government is that this will create a honeypot of information about users with the Facebook group. Now the point is, and the government also says that this can create security risks and vulnerabilities. So after having done a detailed study, this is the government's assessment.
Absolutely, and let the government take a call. I think I am in for a due process of law. I am unfortunately not for a mob process. We believe in democratic processes. Unfortunately,
no, one more, Mr. Rizvi, I don't know by the way, you seem to be trading your guns at someone, I don't know who, but see, the point is, Mr. Rizvi, who had this mob or dictatorial approach in the first place? Was it not WhatsApp? To suddenly give a message, a my way or the highway sort of a message that agree with these terms and condition, else you'll be deplatformed. Who went for such a policy?
So
it was not the government.
So that's not for me to speak. That's that's WhatsApp's decision. My point is very clear that we need a process, we need a data protection law to come in, and we need to do this. And I welcome the step the government is taking. I am not against. I agree with Mr. Jain when he's saying that let them come in and let things be clear. So I don't think there is any disagreement over here.
Okay.
My only point is that we need to have not just for them. There are many other companies who are also coming out.
No, that's why a data privacy bill will be applicable to all. But in this case, the provocation came from a company, and that is why the government's response is for that company. So I don't think there is anything out of place there.
I don't have a problem with that.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with that.
Jitin Jain, very quickly, he wanted to comment. Yes, Mr. Jain.
Look, Sanket, my statements were directed towards certain WhatsApp proxy spokesmen. It was definitely, I did not name anyone. Certainly, I did not name Mr. Rizvi. I agree with him that we need data privacy bill in this country. I also agree with him that there should be no parallel government. There should be no parallel government by any big tech. They should not decide what should be the rights of Indian users, how data should be collected. I also, I'm sorry if when he said that those who are for privacy are not opposing ban on Chinese apps, if he thinks that our government has a mob mentality because only those two people are, parties are involved here, WhatsApp and Government of India. So I'm sure he directed the statement towards Government of India. So Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers are running a mob justice and mob mentality, and this is the view of the citizens of our country about our own government.
Mr. Jain, I don't think that was the inference.
I have no comments to make. People have a right to.
I don't think that was the inference. And see, the idea is not for us to fight among ourselves. The point is not that. I just want to know that as of this moment, do you think that in the back of this WhatsApp controversy, there is a pressing need that come this budget session, the government must bring in the data privacy bill, which by the way is being deliberated by the standing committees?
The bill has already been brought in the parliament. It is with the joint parliamentary committee.
Correct.
It is bipartisan
to take it
approach.
forward.
And I am hopeful that bill will come in this session. It may get passed too. Even if it doesn't happen, government has enough levers to pull to secure the right of 40 crore citizens and ensure the privacy of their data.
Should it use those levers? Given the fact that WhatsApp has made it clear, they've only deferred their plan. They've not rolled it back. Right? Do you think that the government must use these levers?
देखिए WhatsApp क्या कर रहा है? They are a private company. They have right to take an approach. What we are concerned is what our government, which we have elected, what they are doing to protect our rights now. Sure. Here, I don't think there is any scope of discussion. या ये बात कीजिए चाय पीजिए. वो बड़ा एक simple questionnaire है.
Sure.
इसमें कोई वो कुछ नहीं है. They have to reply to that questionnaire in detail, and their replies is for everyone to see.
Correct.
It may be a case that certain information, WhatsApp think that it was disinformation against them, so even WhatsApp will benefit.
No, my whole point is that a lot of people are now coming out. I'm running out of time, but Kazim Rizvi as well as Jitin Jain, thank you so much. There was an attempt being made to normalize the fact that, everything is private, only metadata is being used. Metadata means data about your data. But why should that also be made publicly available on a platform that was private in nature right from the very beginning? I think this is a concern that the government is also cognizant of and questions that the government is also asking of WhatsApp. Kazim Rizvi as well as Jitin Jain, thank you very much for joining us. Stopping for a short break, news and updates will continue on the other side.